Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, today we're headed to Adams County, Pennsylvania. You know, rolling farmland, those historic landmarks.
Okay.
And, of course, a community shaped, I guess you could say, by the Battle of Gettysburg.
Right, right.
You wouldn't exactly picture, this kind of peaceful setting as the backdrop for a shocking crime, but that's precisely what we're going to be
looking into?
Yeah, looking into today.
Yeah.
Use
Court transcripts.
Yeah, court transcripts and a really rare interview with the district attorney.
Wow. Okay.
So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. What's really fascinating about this case, I think, is how a seemingly, simple assault back in 2006 spiraled into this, complex conspiracy.
Oh, wow.
And, exposed this whole web of deceit.
Yeah.
And a criminal mind that's just as meticulous as it is terrifying.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. The story begins on April 30th, 2006. Daniel Keyes is coming back home.
Right.
After having dinner with his brother, John Lloyd.
Okay.
When suddenly he's attacked inside his own house.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not talking about some quick
robbery.
Yeah, robbery. This was personal.
Personal, yeah.
It was vicious.
Yeah. The level of brutality is really striking. The assailant threw boiling water on Daniel's face.
Oh, my gosh.
And then beat him repeatedly with a baseball bat.
Jeez.
It seemed like the intention wasn't just to, subdue him,
Right.
but to really inflict pain,
right.
Potentially prevent even being able to identify him.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And it's even more perplexing when you think about the fact that nothing was stolen from the house. So investigators were really baffled at first.
Right.
Was it...
a grudge.
Yeah, a grudge. Was there some other kind of motive that they were missing?
Right, yeah.
They even looked into Daniel's brother, John, since he was,
the last one.
Yeah, the last one to see him before the attack.
Oh, okay.
But that lead went nowhere.
Well, it's important to clarify here that John Lloyd, he ends up playing a bigger part in the story later.
Okay.
He actually filed charges against our main suspect, Lance Greenwalt, for theft, and that detail becomes really crucial later on.
Wow, I didn't realize that connection existed so early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the case went cold for years,
Yeah.
Imagine living in that community knowing this attacker was still out there.
Oh, absolutely.
It must have been terrifying for the residents.
Right.
And for Daniel, who did survive.
Right.
But was left with,
Scars.
Yes, scars, both physically and emotionally.
Absolutely. That sense of vulnerability, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
That's a chilling part of any unsolved case.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves the whole community wondering if it could happen again, and if so, to who.
And in this case, it turns out there were more intended victims. Fast forward to 2010.
Okay.
And a prison informant comes forward.
Okay.
With information about another inmate.
All right.
Lance Greenwalt.
Okay.
Now, at first, he seems like a small-time crook serving time for...
theft and explosives charges.
Yes, theft and explosives charges.
Right.
Not exactly, the mastermind you'd picture behind such a brutal attack.
Right. That's where that initial perception can be really misleading.
Yeah.
You see these...
petty crimes.
Yeah, petty crimes, this reputation as a con man. But beneath that facade, there's this potential for really calculated violence that often goes unnoticed.
And this case is a perfect example.
Okay.
This informant revealed that that Greenowalt had a hit list.
A hit list?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it included not one, not two.
Oh, no.
But 3 people.
Some people.
That he wanted dead.
Oh, my goodness.
It turned out Judge Michael George, who had presided over Greenowalt's recent burglary trial, he was a target.
Okay.
John Lloyd, Daniel's brother, was also on this list.
Oh, wow.
Possibly because of the charges he filed against Greenwalt.
Right.
But what's most fascinating, I think, is the inclusion of Daniel Keyes.
Right.
On that hit list.
That is interesting.
It suggests a connection between that seemingly random attack in 2006 and this wider plot.
Yeah.
So suddenly you have this pattern emerging. And a much more
sinister.
Yeah, sinister narrative
Yeah.
starts to unfold.
It's like all these puzzle pieces that you thought were random suddenly click into place. And the picture's a lot darker than you thought.
But hold on, because it gets even crazier.
Okay.
Faced with this, this chilling information,
right,
investigators decide to take a bold and risky step.
What's that?
They bugged Greenwalt's prison cell.
They bugged his cell.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not just some hidden microphone. That's a whole operation.
Yeah.
It takes ingenuity and a tolerance for risk.
Yeah.
You're working in a high security prison environment.
Right.
And misstep could have blown their cover.
Right.
Put the whole operation and potentially lives at risk.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a high stakes gamble for sure.
Yeah.
But it paid off.
Okay.
The recordings they got from Greenwalt's cell, well,
yeah,
they were chilling. He outlined his plans like in meticulous detail.
Wow.
Escape routes, methods for getting rid of weapons, even specific instructions on how to dig bullets out of the victims' heads.
Oh my gosh.
It was clear this wasn't just idle talk.
Yeah.
This was a carefully crafted plan.
Yeah, what's really unsettling is the level of, detachment in Greenwald's voice as he's describing these horrific acts.
Yeah.
He even advises the informant to use Daniel Keyes as like practice, showing, just complete disregard for human life.
It's bone chilling, to hear him talk about taking a life so casually.
Yeah.
And there's another layer to this that's incredibly disturbing.
What's that?
Greenwalt's heard boasting on these recordings.
What does he say?
He says, there'll be 5,000 suspects, and I'll be sitting nice and comfortable right here.
Oh, wow.
Referring to his prison cell.
That statement, I think, reveals a lot about his psychology. It's more than just arrogance. It speaks to this deep-seated belief in his own ability to manipulate the system to outsmart everyone.
Yeah.
He seems to almost relish the thought of orchestrating this chaos from behind bars.
Like he's playing this twisted game and he's convinced he's going to win.
Yeah.
But there was one piece of the puzzle that even investigators couldn't figure out.
What's that?
How did Greenwalt get such detailed knowledge of Judge George's property? He had no prior connection to the judge before the burglary trial.
That detail remains a mystery to this day.
It's crazy.
There's speculation, that he might have had someone on the outside helping him gather information, or maybe he was doing some kind of surveillance.
Right.
But there's no concrete evidence to support those theories.
Right.
It's just another layer of intrigue to an already really complex and disturbing case.
It's a reminder that even with, the most meticulous investigations, some questions may remain unanswered.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, armed with these incriminating recordings, the district attorney made a strategic decision.
Okay.
Instead of trying Greenwalt for all the crimes at once, he decided to pursue 2 separate trials.
That's a clever legal tactic by separating the cases.
Right.
The prosecution could focus on the specific evidence relevant to each crime without, overwhelming the jury with too much information.
Right.
This approach can be really effective when you're dealing with complex conspiracies.
Right.
Because it allows the jury to really process the evidence more clearly.
It makes sense breaking it down into, more manageable pieces.
Right.
So the first trial focused on the solicitation of the murders of Daniel Keyes and John Lloyd.
Okay.
And the attack on Daniel.
Okay.
And here's a detail I found fascinating.
What's that?
Greenowalt chose to wear his prison uniform to court.
That's an unusual choice,
right,
to say the least.
Yeah.
I think it could have multiple interpretations.
Okay.
Some legal experts might see it as a sign of defiance, like a way of rejecting the legitimacy of the court proceedings.
Right.
Others might interpret it as like a misguided attempt
Good.
to appear harmless or even elicit sympathy from the jury.
It definitely makes you question his legal strategy.
Yeah.
Or if he even had one.
Yeah.
Now, during this first trial, there was a moment that truly highlighted the fear that Greenowalt had instilled.
Oh, really?
The jury came back with a question that sent chills down everyone's spine.
What did they ask? In this case, the prosecution had to rely heavily on the recordings from Greenowalt's cell.
Right.
And the testimony of the prison informant.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the first trial, there was no physical victim.
Right.
No one who could directly testify to the impact of Greenowalt's actions.
Right, yeah.
So the challenge was to convince the jury of the gravity of a crime that thankfully hadn't been carried out.
That makes sense. It must have been difficult to convey the real danger when the intended victim was unharmed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's not forget that the informant himself was a convicted criminal.
Right.
Which, the defense could easily use to discredit his testimony.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Credibility of witnesses is always crucial in any trial.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense would certainly try to exploit any weaknesses they could find in the informant's story.
Right.
They could argue he was fabricating information to get a reduced sentence or other benefits.
Yeah. It seems like a tough case to prove.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with a defendant who's already behind bars.
Yeah.
But in this instance, those recordings proved to be invaluable.
How so?
Hearing Greenwalt's own words.
Yeah.
Plotting and planning in chilling detail.
Yeah.
Well, it left little room for doubt.
The recordings provided that undeniable link, the concrete evidence of Greenwalt's intent.
Right.
They transformed speculation into fact.
Exactly.
And that was crucial for the prosecution's case.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the investigators' foresight in recognizing the importance of gathering that type of evidence.
It's a real-life example of how technology and clever investigative techniques can be used to bring criminals to justice.
Right, right.
And during the deliberations for this second trial, the jury made a very specific request.
What was it?
They asked to re-listen to the entire recording.
Wow.
Which was hours and hours long.
That request shows just how seriously the jury was taking its duty.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure they had a complete understanding of the evidence.
Right.
Before reaching a verdict.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of the weight of responsibility that rests on a jury's shoulders.
Absolutely.
And
after listening to all that audio, the jury took a short break.
Okay.
And then came back with their verdict.
Now, what was it?
Guilty on all counts.
Wow.
Justice was served.
Okay.
But the story leaves us with some unsettling questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Questions that I think we should explore. So Greenwalt is behind bars now.
Right.
But this deep dive into the case, it reveals so much more than a simple conviction.
What do you mean?
It raises some really disturbing questions.
About Bugagoya.
About the nature of evil.
Yeah.
And the potential for violence.
Right.
That might be lurking closer than we think.
It's unsettling, to think that someone like Greenwalt, who presented himself as this, petty criminal, a con man, could be capable of such, calculated and cold-blooded violence.
Right.
It really makes you question your own assumptions about, who you perceive as dangerous.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the victims in all of this.
Of course not.
Think about what Daniel Keyes went through.
Yeah.
He not only survived that horrific attack,
right,
but then had to live with the knowledge that his attacker had intended to kill him all along.
Right.
And was actively plotting to finish the job.
Yeah, the psychological impact of that kind of trauma.
I can't even imagine.
It's immeasurable.
It would have to be.
To be targeted in such a personal and violent way.
Right.
And then to discover it was part of this larger, more sinister plan.
Right.
It would be devastating.
It's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder about the long-term consequences for Daniel.
Yeah.
And the other intended victims. Right. We know he physically survived.
Yeah.
But what about the emotional and psychological scars?
That's something that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
In these cases.
In these cases.
We focus on the physical injuries,
right,
the legal outcomes,
right,
but those unseen wounds, the trauma that lingers,
right,
long after the headlines fade.
Exactly.
It can be just as debilitating.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then there's Judge Jors,
right,
who thankfully was unaware of the plot against him.
Right.
But it raises questions about the safety and security,
right,
of those in positions of authority.
Right.
Could something like this happen again?
It's a sobering reminder that even those who uphold the law can become targets of violence.
It's true.
This case really highlights the vulnerabilities that exist within the justice system itself.
Yeah.
Judges, prosecutors, witnesses, they all rely on a certain level of trust and security. And when that's violated, it can have ripple effects throughout the entire system.
So what can we learn from this deep dive? I think it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths
Yeah.
about human nature
Yeah.
and the potential for darkness to exist
Right.
in unexpected places.
It challenges our assumptions about who we perceive as dangerous.
Yeah.
It reminds us that evil doesn't always present itself in an obvious way.
Right.
It can lurk beneath the surface,
Right.
hidden behind a facade of normalcy.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with more questions than answers.
Like what?
Well, like we still don't know
Okay.
how Greenowalt obtained those detailed maps of Judge George's property.
Right.
Was he working alone or did he have help?
That unanswered question, I think, adds to the intrigue of this case.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to the limitations
Yeah.
of even the most thorough investigations.
Right.
Sometimes, despite our best efforts, certain mysteries remain unsolved.
And that, I think, is one of the key takeaways from this deep dive.
What do you mean?
It reminds us that while the pursuit of justice is crucial, it doesn't always provide neat and tidy resolutions.
Right.
There are often loose ends,
Yeah.
unanswered questions,
Yeah.
a lingering sense of unease.
It also underscores the importance of vigilance and awareness.
Sure.
You know, we need to be attentive to the subtle signs.
Right.
The red flags that might indicate someone is capable of violence.
Right.
And we need to be proactive in protecting ourselves and our communities.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's about being aware of our surroundings, trusting our instincts,
Right.
taking steps to mitigate risks.
Absolutely.
But it's also about having faith in the justice system
Right.
and the individuals who work tirelessly to keep us safe.
This case really highlights the dedication and creativity of law enforcement officials
Right.
who often operate behind the scenes. You know, their efforts in this case, from the risky decision to bug Greenwalt's cell to the meticulous gathering of evidence, were instrumental in securing his conviction.
It's a reminder that while we may focus on the perpetrators of these crimes,
Right.
there are countless unsung heroes working tirelessly
Right.
to ensure justice prevails.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
The Greenwalt case
Yeah.
is not just a story about a criminal mastermind
Okay.
and his thwarted plans.
Right.
It's a reflection of the complexities of human nature.
Yeah.
The unpredictable nature of violence.
Right.
And the ongoing struggle to create a safer
Right.
and more just society.
It's a story that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths,
Wow.
but also to appreciate the resilience of the human spirit and the dedication of those who work to protect us.
Absolutely.
And it serves as a powerful reminder. Yeah, that while evil may lurk in unexpected places, so too does hope, courage, and the unwavering pursuit of justice.